Earlier this morning, we read the words, Vayosef Avraham vayikach isha ushmo Keturah. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. She would be Abraham's third wife that we know about. Sarah is dead. Hagar was banished. His son Isaac is in the tent with Rebekah. And Abraham is alone now. So Abraham took another wife, and they had 6 children. To be transparent, I'm not sure if this is chronologically accurate. Because if you remember back, assisting a woman to get pregnant at age 100 was difficult. So think about it. Now, 6 kids? But that's not what I want to focus on. We know very little about Keturah. She is mentioned as if out of thin air, without relation to anyone else. We don't know her lineage, and at this point in the Torah, that's a little odd because we are in the midst of many, many genealogies. So who was she? According to Rav, in Midrash Breshit Rava, and then later quoted by Rashi, Keturah was actually Hagar. The Targum Yonatan goes even deeper. Listen to what he adds in his Aramaic translation of the text. Va'osif Avraham unitzav ita ushmo Keturah hi Hagar deketira le min sheruya. And Abraham added and took a wife, and her name was Keturah. She is Hagar, who had been bound to him from the beginning. So according to this train of thought, Shlomo Ephraim ben Aaron Lunshitz, writing in the 1500s and known as the Kli Yakar, he suggests that Abraham took it upon himself to rename this woman from Hagar to Keturah. The Kli Yakar writes, Avraham named her Keturah in honor of the holy incense, the Ketoret, to make it known that she had repented fully after having lapsed into idolatry, so that now even her former deeds ascended to heaven like the incense. He renamed the woman after the incense that did not exist yet. Talk about chronological inaccuracies. In any event, Kli Yakar focused on Hagar's teshuvah. But I want to focus this morning on what it was that Avraham did, if we accept that Keturah was Hagar. And if you think the entire premise is total narishkeit, just go with it for a few minutes. Some of you might recall that in last week's Parsha, at the request or plea or insistence of Sarah, Hagar had been banished from Abraham's household together with her son Ishmael. She was mamish banished. She was sent to the wilderness to fend for herself and her son with no protection. Personally, I think that Abraham made the wrong move, but Hagar needed to be out of the picture to continue the narrative and the Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all the way to us plotline. Kicking a woman and a child to the wilderness without money, without protection, or enough food and drink was wrong. Abraham should not have listened to Sarah and sent her off to fend for herself. He could have maybe just set her up in a different community and asked her never to come back. If you look at Abraham as a whole, this was very out of character for him. Because as we have read in the weeks leading to today, he was the boss. He wore the pants in the family, not Sarah. Now, no matter how cruel Sarah's demand was, he did it. Therefore, it had to be difficult for Abraham to reach out to Hagar/Keturah at this point. First of all, how did he find her? And once he did find her, neither of them were in their prime. And why would she return to him? Over the last few weeks, I've been talking a lot about Abraham's 10 tests. Many of our commentaries place all 10 tests between Parshat Lech Lecha and Vayera, which were the Torah portions of the last 2 weeks. His first test was the famous Lech Lecha, being asked to leave everything behind and blindly follow God, and his final test was the binding of Isaac. But lately, I've been thinking that Abraham's final test is actually this moment. If we follow the Midrash and the Targum and Rashi, then what Abraham did was he faced someone that he hurt and he wronged in a significant way. Hagar was someone that he had been intimate with and co-parented a child with. She was not a one-night stand. They had a relationship. I don't think it was easy for Abraham to do teshuvah and fess up to what he did to her. I just don't think it was easy. This way of thinking, it lifts up Abraham as a person with the capacity to reach out to Davka, a person, a woman, whom he obviously wronged. And as women were considered chattel or property back then, this is a huge move for our patriarch. Some of you in this room have done it. You realized you wronged someone. You know you were at fault. You hurt someone. And then you reached out to apologize. And you encouraged them to return to having a prominent place in your life. And if you've done it, then you know it's really, really hard. And maybe you did it ahead of the high holidays, but it's not easy. And if some of you have done it, that means that a portion of you have faced rejection following your bold and courageous move. Perhaps you've heard, "No, you hurt me too much," or "No, I've learned that I'm better without you," or "Through this time and what you've done, I learned that I'm actually stronger without you in my life." It's challenging to face up to someone that you have wronged and hurt and figuratively fall at their feet and beg to be forgiven and reconcile, because these little things called ego and pride get involved. And that Abraham did it was perhaps the final test in a long and productive life. Maybe, and this is pure conjecture, that after Abraham mourned and eulogized his wife Sarah, and after a partner was found for his son Isaac, he looked back on his life, as some do, and he examined his ways and the mistakes he made along the way. And one of the biggest regrets in his life was the way that he listened to this wife and literally, Garesha ama hazot ve'et bana, that he literally just cast away Hagar and Ishmael like garbage. Maybe he realized he could have been a little softer. What Abraham did was really hard. Maybe, even at the end of his life, Abraham wanted to be a blessing, as God told him he would be, v'yeheh bracha. It is a blessing to have courage to say to someone, I wronged you. Please forgive me, and let's be in a relationship again. Yet this time, let it be 2.0. Now, for those who think that this whole idea of Keturah being Hagar is absolutely far-fetched, don't worry, because you are in excellent company. As many classic commentators, like Ibn Ezra, who I spoke about before with Nathan, and Rashi's grandson, Rashbam, completely reject this idea. But modeling asking forgiveness from someone that you have wronged in a substantial way is righteous. And it's the behavior at tzaddikim. And there is a reason that some of the rabbis attribute this to Abraham. Shabbat shalom.